Hello and welcome to Getting Started with Amazon EMR. My name is Amir Basirat and I'm a Big Data Specialist Solutions Architect at AWS focused on Amazon EMR. In this demo, I'm going to walk you through Amazon EMR Notebooks and show you how to use and access them. Amazon EMR offers EMR Notebooks, a managed environment based on Jupyter and Jupyter Lab Notebooks that enables users to interactively analyze and visualize data, collaborate with peers, and build and debug Spark applications in real time. This slide shows you a quick schema of the architecture of EMR Notebook. Users can log into AWS Management Console, navigate to the EMR page, and then spin up multiple notebooks from the console. These notebooks are hosted inside EMR VPC without any access to the internet. They are connected remotely to the master node of your cluster running inside your VPC and through security groups. Using these notebooks, you can submit your Spark jobs remotely on your cluster through the Livy that's also installed on the master node of your cluster. Unlike a traditional notebook, the contents of an EMR notebook itself, like equations, visualizations, queries, models, code, and text, they are all saved in Amazon S3 independently from clusters for durable storage, quick access, and flexibility. You can have multiple notebooks open, attach multiple notebooks to a single cluster, and reuse the notebook in different clusters if you want. An Amazon EMR cluster is in fact required to execute the code and queries within an EMR notebook, but the notebook isn't locked to that cluster, and this makes support for transient clusters more efficient. You can start a cluster, attach an EMR notebook to it, and then terminate that cluster later if you want. The notebook still exists, so the next time you want to analyze or model your data, you can create another cluster and attach the same notebook to it. Okay, let's quickly switch to AWS Management Console and see how EMR Notebook actually works. I first navigate to EMR page. As you can see here, I've already created two EMR clusters. I first choose EMR cluster 1, choose notebooks, and then create notebook. You need to enter a notebook name and an optional notebook description. So I put EMR Notebook demo for the name and then EMR Notebook for description. If you have an active cluster running Hadoop, Spark, and Livy, to which you want to attach the notebook, you can leave the default and choose an existing cluster from the list which appears here. Only clusters that meet certain requirements appear here. Requirements such as having Hadoop, Spark, and Livy applications installed on EMR, and only clusters created using Amazon EMR release version 5.18 and later are supported. You can also choose to create a cluster. Then you need to enter a cluster name and choose a few options. The cluster will be created in the default VPC for the AWS account using on-demand instances, and the release cannot be modified. And it defaults to the latest Amazon EMR release version. Then you need to enter the number of instances and select the EC2 instance type. One instance is used for the master node, the rest will be used for core nodes, and the instance type determines the number of notebooks that can be attached to the cluster simultaneously. You can leave the default EMR role or choose the link to specify a custom service role for Amazon EMR. You can also leave the default EC2 instance profile or choose the link to specify a custom service role for EC2 instances. You can also choose an EC2 keeper to be able to connect to your cluster instances remotely. For security groups, you can choose the default security group or alternatively choose other custom security groups that are available in the VPC of the cluster. For AWS service role, you can leave the default or choose a custom role from the list. For notebook location, you choose the location in Amazon S3 where the notebook file is saved. If the bucket and folders don't exist, Amazon EMR creates it. Optionally, if you have added a Git-based repository to Amazon EMR that you want to associate it with this notebook, you can choose Git repository and then select the repository from the list. You can also optionally choose tags and then add any additional key value tags for your notebook. Okay, let's go back up and choose one of our existing clusters, EMR cluster 1, and then create notebook. After you create an EMR notebook, the notebook takes a short time to start. When the notebook status changes from starting to pending mode, it shows that the notebook has been created and it's waiting for integration with the cluster to complete. You can open a notebook when its status shows as ready. While a notebook has a ready status, you can also stop it or delete it if you want. Also, if a notebook in the ready status will be idle for a long period of time, it will be stopped automatically. Okay, now the notebook is in ready status. I can launch the notebook in both Jupyter Lab or Jupyter directly from the console. Let me open it in the Jupyter Lab. A new browser tab opens to the Jupyter Lab editor. I choose my notebook, and then I can choose between different Jupyter kernels that are listed here. I choose PySpark to run my code. I paste my code into the cell and I run my code. The code will run for a few seconds and it will update its output as it runs. EMR notebooks are integrated with a Spark monitor, and this feature helps you to track your Spark job activity initiated from within the notebook itself. In addition, EMR Notebooks has a built-in Jupyter Notebook widget that lets you to view Spark job details alongside query output in the notebook editor. The widget will be available by default and requires no special configuration. So you can see the output of my Spark job here. Good. Now we want to detach our notebook from EMR cluster 1 and attach it to a different cluster, say EMR cluster 2, which might be more suitable for our workload. To change the cluster of an EMR notebook, you have to stop it first. While the notebook is in a stopping status and it is shutting down, you can open the notebook editor. You cannot delete it or you cannot change clusters for that notebook. Let's wait for a few seconds until our EMR notebook changes status to stopped. Bear with me for a few more seconds. It's getting stopped now. When the notebook status is changed to stop, then we can select the notebook from the notebook list and choose view details. All right. I now change cluster. I choose EMR cluster 2, change cluster, and start notebook. Again, notebook goes into starting and pending mode before it can be attached to the second cluster. This pending mode again shows that the notebook has been created and it's waiting for integration with the cluster to complete. When it is in ready status, then we can again open Jupyter Lab and open our notebook. While this time our notebook is attached to the second EMR cluster. Very cool. This is the end of my short demo for today, and I hope you find this quick presentation of EMR notebooks useful. Thank you very much for your time.